You're lying on bare ground on the East African savanna, roughly 1.5 million years ago, and the sun just dropped below the horizon. No blanket, no walls, no flame to push back the dark. The temperature is falling fast, the way it does on open ground, with nothing to hold the day's heat, and your skin is bare against it. Somewhere out in the grass, something with teeth is moving, and the only thing standing between you and the cold, the dark, and whatever's hunting tonight is the animal your body has slowly become. Right now, you could end a night like that with one click of a lighter, or the flip of a switch. For most of the existence of the genus Homo, neither option existed. No flint spark, no ember carried from camp to camp, no hearth waiting at the end of the day, just body heat, geography, and whatever your ancestors had already figured out how to eat, wear, and outrun. So how did early humans survive well over 1 million years on a fireless planet, through ice age winters and brutal heat alike, with no cooking, no controlled light, and no warmth on demand? Start with food, because that's the problem that should have ended the whole project early. In 2016, Harvard researchers Catherine Zink and Daniel Lieberman ran an experiment that sounds almost too simple. They fed volunteers raw goat meat and raw root vegetables, some sliced, some pounded, some left whole, and measured exactly how hard the jaw had to work to break each one down. Meat sliced with a stone flake took 39 to 46% less chewing force than raw roots eaten the same way. Scaled across a year, that one change, slicing instead of gnawing, saved early Homo an estimated 2.5 million chews. You didn't need fire to eat well. You needed a sharp rock and about 40 seconds of prep. Everyone assumes cooking is what made a meat-heavy diet possible for early humans. It isn't. Not for the first 1 million+ years of it. Zink and Lieberman's data shows stone tools alone, cutting meat into manageable pieces long before any hearth existed, did most of the digestive heavy lifting. The knife came first. The oven showed up almost 1 million years later. That trade-off mattered more than it sounds. In 1995, biological anthropologists Leslie Aiello, then at University College London, and Peter Wheeler at Liverpool John Moores University compared brain size and gut size across dozens of primate species. Their finding, the human brain, roughly 2% of total body weight, burns something like 20% of the body's resting energy. An organ that expensive has to be funded from somewhere. Aiello and Wheeler's answer was a shrinking gut. A smaller, less energy-hungry digestive tract that could only survive on a richer, easier-to-process diet. Sliced meat wasn't a snack option. It was the loan that paid for the brain. So the food problem had an answer, and it explained a lot more than dinner. What about the cold? In 2011, archaeologists Will Robrooks and Paola Villa at Leiden University reviewed every major fire-related site across Europe and found something almost nobody expected. Early hominins pushed into northern latitudes, into temperatures that regularly dropped below freezing, starting more than 800,000 years ago. The Happisburgh site in England puts humans on Britain's coast at roughly that same age. Across that entire span, there's no reliable trace of fire at those sites, not until somewhere between 300,000 and 400,000 years ago. That's over 400,000 years of European winters survived on skin, movement, and shelter alone, caves, rock overhangs, and a body built to generate and hold heat through sheer physical activity rather than a flame. Everyone assumes fire was the ticket into cold climates, the tool that let humans push north in the first place. The record says otherwise. Hominins were already living through freezing winters 400,000 years before anyone reliably lit a hearth to help them. And staying warm, it turns out, wasn't even the hardest part of that equation. Staying cool was. In 2004, University of Utah biologist Dennis Bramble and Harvard anthropologist Daniel Lieberman published a paper in Nature arguing that the human body itself had quietly become a heat-dumping machine. Humans carry somewhere between 2 and 4 million sweat glands spread across nearly bare skin, a setup almost no other mammal on the planet shares. A cheetah sprinting flat out has to stop and pant within a minute or risk cooking its own brain. A human, soaked in sweat and stripped of fur, can keep moving through the hottest part of the day for hours. That gap is why persistence hunting worked at all. Early humans didn't outrun prey animals. They outcooled them, chasing a heat-stressed antelope until its body simply gave out. But sweat and bare skin only solve half of that equation, and there's still the question of when the actual fire shows up. In 2012, Francesco Berna at Boston University led an analysis of microscopic ash and burned bone buried deep inside Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, more than 30 yards from the entrance, too far in for wind, lightning, or wildfire to explain it. The material dated to roughly 1 million years old. Follow-up research from the same cave, published in 2026, pushed possible fire traces back even further to somewhere between 107 and 179 million years ago. Even at the earliest edge of that range, hominins had already been surviving without fire for 1,000,000 years or more before anyone reliably controlled it. Wonderwork still stands as the oldest widely accepted evidence of fire brought deliberately into a living space and kept there, deep enough inside the cave that it had to have been carried in and maintained on purpose. Everyone pictures the discovery of fire as the moment human survival began. It wasn't. It was the moment an already working survival system, sweat, slicing, a shrinking gut, sheer willingness to walk into landscapes no one else could handle, got a serious upgrade. So the honest answer to how ancient humans survived before fire isn't really about what they were missing. It's about what they'd already built. A body that dumped heat better than almost any other mammal alive. A habit of slicing food instead of waiting for a flame to soften it. A metabolism rearranged so a starving-looking animal could still afford a brain 3 times the size physics said it should have. None of that came from a single invention. It came from a long list of smaller, quieter adaptations stacking on top of each other for well over 1,000,000 years, each one buying a little more room to survive somewhere colder, hotter, or harder than the last. Fire didn't rescue an unprepared species. It arrived roughly 1,000,000 years after Homo was already thriving without it, and made an already tough animal more efficient. Go back to that night on the savannah, lying on bare ground with nothing between you and the dark. From here, on a couch, in a heated room, 3 seconds from a lit screen, it reads like a horror story. But that hominin wasn't helpless. They were running a body engineered over millions of years to sweat instead of pant, to chew less and still eat enough, to walk into a freezing continent no one had dared enter yet. Fire didn't make humans capable of survival. Humans were already capable. Fire just made survival less exhausting. You're lying on bare ground 1.5 million years ago, with no blanket, no walls, and no flame between you and the dark. It sounds like a death sentence. It wasn't. Long before anyone controlled fire, the human body and a handful of Stone Age tricks were already doing the job.